The corridors of power are silent, yet they whisper secrets. Secrets so dark they can shatter empires. For years, I served as Elon Musk's personal bodyguard, a shadow in his larger-than-life presence. I was there for the rockets, the cars, the AI unveilings. But I was also there for the unspoken, the rituals cloaked in secrecy, the symbols that haunted my nights. I didn't think much of it at first. A man as brilliant as Musk was bound to be eccentric. But as the years passed, the coincidences became too glaring, the symbols too deliberate. I've stayed silent for too long, but today, the truth must come out. These are the 7 stories that reveal the dark truth about Elon Musk and his ties to Nazi symbology. 1. The oath ceremony, a sinister salute. The turning point came during Trump's oath ceremony. Musk attended as a special guest, seated prominently among political elites. As Trump swore in, Musk raised his hand in a gesture that sent chills down my spine. It wasn't the usual applause or wave. It was a subtle but unmistakable replication of the Nazi salute. The media caught the moment, but most dismissed it as a coincidence. Behind the scenes, Musk seemed unfazed, even amused. Later that evening, he joked about hidden signals and how only the worthy will understand. One day, I entered Elon's room as he forgot his glasses that day. The room was unlike anything I had ever seen. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with volumes on history, philosophy, and science. But among them were tomes that made my blood run cold. Books on Adolf Hitler, Nazi ideology, and occult practices tied to the Third Reich. One title stood out, Thule and the Aryan Vision, its cover adorned with cryptic runes and symbols. On a desk, a series of black and white photographs were laid out. They depicted Nazi rallies, swastika-clad uniforms, and, most disturbingly, a blueprint of what appeared to be a Tesla facility. At the center of the blueprint was a symbol, a distorted version of the Tesla logo, encircled by what looked like a laurel wreath, eerily reminiscent of Nazi insignias. My heart pounded as I realized the implications. Was this a bizarre fascination, or something far more sinister? Before I could examine further, I heard footsteps approaching. I quickly left the study, my mind racing. Samo. 2. The Tesla factory and the mysterious emblem. The Tesla factory in Fremont, California, was often described as the beating heart of Musk's empire, a place where innovation thrived and the future was forged. To outsiders, it was a marvel of engineering and efficiency. But as Musk's personal bodyguard, I saw the other side of this operation, a side that sent chills down my spine. It started with the emblem. At first glance, the Tesla logo was sleek, modern, and unassuming. A simple T that represented technological progress. But during a late-night patrol of the factory floor, I stumbled upon a room that was off-limits to nearly everyone, including senior engineers. My clearance gave me access, and curiosity got the better of me. The door creaked open, revealing a cavernous, dimly lit chamber. Unlike the bright and sterile factory floors, this room had an oppressive air, its walls lined with strange murals that looked ancient but had a futuristic twist. In the center of the room stood a massive sculpture of the Tesla emblem, but it wasn't the familiar logo seen on cars. This version was sharper, more angular, and unmistakably sinister. The emblem seemed to radiate a strange energy, its metallic surface shimmering in a way that didn't match the light in the room. As I stepped closer, I noticed something etched around its base, symbols that looked eerily similar to runes I'd seen in obscure history books. They seemed out of place in a factory dedicated to cutting-edge technology. Before I could examine them further, I heard voices. I hid behind a stack of crates as Musk entered the room, accompanied by a group of senior executives. "This," Musk said, gesturing to the emblem, "is the key to everything." One of the executives, a man I'd seen at several Tesla events, nodded. "The design is flawless, but are you sure it's wise to incorporate this into production?" Musk's smile was cold and calculating. "Symbols have power. This one represents a lineage, a legacy that predates all of this." He gestured broadly, as if to encompass the factory, the cars, and perhaps the entire world. People think they're just buying electric vehicles. What they don't realize is that every one of them is part of something much larger, a movement that will reshape humanity. The executives murmured their agreement, though some looked uneasy. Musk's voice dropped, becoming almost a whisper. "You've seen the numbers. Every car we produce, every battery we install, it's more than transportation. It's a signal, a beacon. And when the time comes, they'll understand." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was Musk suggesting that his cars were more than just vehicles? The implications were staggering, and the room seemed to grow colder with every word he spoke. As the group exited, I stepped out of my hiding spot, drawn back to the emblem. Something compelled me to touch it. The moment my fingers brushed its surface, a wave of nausea hit me, and I saw a vision. A sprawling city bathed in red light, its skies filled with drones bearing the Tesla logo. The people below moved like automatons, their faces devoid of emotion, as if controlled by some unseen force. I staggered back, my heart pounding. Whatever this emblem represented, it wasn't just a logo. It was a harbinger of something dark, something that had been set in motion long before Tesla became a household name. Factor 3. The Mars colony and the Aryan vision. Elon Musk's ambition to colonize Mars was no secret. To the public, it was a noble endeavor. Humanity's chance to become a multi-planetary species and escape the perils of Earth. But within the inner circles of Musk's world, this vision took on a far darker tone. I first heard whispers of Project Red Dawn during a private meeting in the SpaceX headquarters. Musk's presentations to the public were filled with optimism and scientific brilliance. But behind closed doors, the narrative shifted. One evening, Musk summoned me to escort him to a highly confidential briefing at the SpaceX launch facility in Boca Chica. The room was filled with elite scientists, engineers, and a handful of wealthy investors. As the meeting began, Musk's tone was calm but unnervingly fervent, as though he was revealing a divine plan. "The Mars colony," he began, "is not just about survival. It's about evolution, about creating a better version of humanity." The crowd nodded in agreement, their faces a mixture of awe and unease. Musk continued, gesturing to a holographic projection of a sprawling Martian city. The buildings were sleek and symmetrical, their designs eerily reminiscent of Nazi-era architecture, cold, efficient, and devoid of individuality. "The conditions on Mars will be harsh," Musk said, "but they will weed out the weak. Only the strongest, the most intelligent, and the most disciplined will thrive." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "This is not just a colony. It's a crucible. A place where the best of humanity will forge a new beginning, untainted by the chaos of Earth." As I stood at the back of the room, my mind raced. What did he mean by untainted? The implications were troubling, but the next part of his presentation sent a chill down my spine. Musk unveiled a genetic enhancement program designed for the Martian settlers. Dubbed Project Aryan, it aimed to create a superior human race through advanced CRISPR technology. The name alone was alarming, but the details were even more disturbing. MUSK described altering settlers' DNA to enhance their physical and mental capabilities, strength, intelligence, endurance, but also their obedience. The Martian environment will require unity, MUSK explained. Dissent will lead to failure, and failure is not an option. This program ensures that our settlers will not just survive, but thrive in harmony. As the presentation continued, the hologram shifted to show a group of individuals, the ideal Martian settlers. Their features were strikingly uniform, tall, fair-skinned, with piercing blue eyes and chiseled features. It was impossible to ignore the parallels to Aryan propaganda from the 20th century. One of the investors raised a hesitant hand. Elon, isn't this controversial? People might see this as, well, reminiscent of certain historical ideologies. MUSK smiled, but it wasn't the warm, charismatic smile the world knew. It was cold, calculated, and filled with something that felt like disdain. History is written by the victors, he said simply. And on Mars, we will write our own history. The critics on Earth are irrelevant. They'll be left behind. After the meeting, I was tasked with escorting MUSK to his private quarters. As we walked, I gathered the courage to ask him about what I had just witnessed. Mr. MUSK, I began cautiously. Don't you think the Mars project could face backlash if people found out about the enhancements? He stopped and turned to me, his expression unreadable. Backlash is a symptom of small minds clinging to outdated ideologies, he said. What we're doing isn't evil, it's progress, and progress always has its price. Before I could respond, he leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. The Earth is dying, and its people are fractured. Mars is our chance to start over, to create a society free from the mistakes of the past. If that scares people, so be it. Fear is just a lack of understanding. As he walked away, I was left standing in the dimly lit corridor, grappling with the weight of his words. The vision MUSK had for Mars wasn't just about survival or exploration. It was about control, purity, and power. An unsettling reflection of ideologies that humanity had fought to leave behind. 4. The Neuralink experiment. A chilling revelation. Neuralink was heralded as one of Elon Musk's most revolutionary ventures. A device to merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence, to cure diseases, and enhance the human brain. It was technology straight out of science fiction, sold to the world as a beacon of hope. But as someone who had witnessed the darker side of Musk's empire, I knew better than to take anything at face value. One evening, MUSK summoned me to an undisclosed facility. It was deep in the Nevada desert, far from prying eyes. The structure was unmarked, surrounded by miles of barren land. Inside, the sterile white walls and the hum of high-tech equipment created an atmosphere of both innovation and unease. You're about to see history in the making, MUSK said as we descended in a private elevator. His voice was calm, almost hypnotic, but his eyes carried a glint of something darker, a fervor that bordered on obsession. The elevator doors opened to reveal a massive underground lab. Rows of scientists in white coats worked tirelessly at stations surrounded by blinking monitors and glowing holograms. In the center of the room stood a large glass chamber, and inside was a young man strapped to a chair. Electrodes were attached to his shaved head, his eyes darting around with a mix of fear and confusion. "This," MUSK said, gesturing to the chamber, is the future of humanity. A future where thought and action are one, where human limitations are a thing of the past. As I stood by MUSK's side, the lead scientist began explaining the procedure. Neuralink wasn't just a brain-computer interface. It was a tool to rewrite the human mind. They were testing its ability to enhance cognitive functions, creativity, intelligence, memory, but also something far more chilling: obedience. Subject 37, the scientist announced. "Are you ready?" The young man, trembling, nodded reluctantly. I later learned that these subjects were not volunteers, but individuals coerced into the program, their pasts erased to ensure no one would come looking for them. The experiment began with a low hum as the Neuralink device activated. The man's body tensed, his eyes widening in shock. At first he seemed calm, even euphoric, as if the device was unlocking some hidden potential. But then his expression twisted into one of agony. I don't want to," he stammered, his voice trembling. Musk leaned in, his face impassive. "What do you not want to do?" The man's voice grew louder, more panicked. I can't stop thinking. It's like my mind isn't my own anymore." The lead scientist turned to Musk. "He's resisting. Should we increase the synchronization level?" Musk nodded. "Do it." The hum grew louder, and the man's screams echoed through the chamber. His body convulsed, and then, suddenly, he went still. When he opened his eyes, they were blank, devoid of any emotion. "Subject 37, the scientist said cautiously. "Can you hear me?" "Yes," the man replied in a monotone voice. "Will you follow orders without question?" "Yes," he repeated, his voice robotic. Musk smiled, a chilling expression that sent shivers down my spine. "Perfect," he said. As the experiment concluded, I couldn't help but ask, "What is this really about, Mr. Musk? This isn't just about enhancing humanity, is it?" Musk turned to me, his smile fading. "Humanity is flawed," he said. "We're emotional, irrational, and weak. Neuralink isn't just a tool, it's a solution. Imagine a world where every person is connected, every thought aligned, every action coordinated. There would be no wars, no dissent, no chaos, only progress." "And what about free will?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Free will is an illusion," he replied coldly. "It's the greatest obstacle to evolution. Neuralink doesn't take it away. It refines it, redirects it for the greater good." I stood there, stunned, as Musk walked away, his words echoing in my mind. Neuralink wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was a means of control, a way to reshape humanity into Musk's vision of perfection. That night, I couldn't sleep. The screams of Subject 37 haunted me, as did the thought of what Musk was planning. Neuralink wasn't about curing diseases or enhancing lives. It was about creating a world where he held all the power, a world where individuality was sacrificed at the altar of progress. And the scariest part? Musk had already begun testing Neuralink on unsuspecting individuals, embedding the devices into employees, volunteers, and even high-profile figures. The question wasn't if his vision would come to fruition, it was how long it would take before the entire world fell under his control. 5. The Cryptic Book and the Secret Library. Musk had a private library in his home, a sanctuary he rarely let anyone enter. But one night, while patrolling the estate, I found the door ajar. Inside, the walls were lined with ancient texts, many in languages I couldn't read. One book, however, caught my eye. A thick tome with a swastika faintly embossed on its leather cover. The title read, "The Spear of Destiny," a reference to the Nazi obsession with the occult. Musk entered the room moments later and caught me. His voice was calm, almost amused. "History is a tool," he said. "To understand the future, you must study the past." His words lingered with me long after I left the room. 6. The private party. A disturbing toast. The invitation to Musk's private estate felt more like a summons than an RSVP. The glossy black card bore no details beyond the date, time, and a cryptic phrase embossed in silver. "For the visionaries of tomorrow." The location was one of Musk's most secluded properties, a sprawling mansion tucked away in a remote Californian valley. Security was tighter than usual, with guards wielding state-of-the-art equipment that scanned not just for weapons, but even for intentions, as one of them joked. The estate itself was an architectural marvel, but there was something unnerving about its design. The walls bore strange geometric patterns, the ceilings arched unnaturally high, and every room seemed to echo whispers that weren't there. The dining hall, where the event was held, was illuminated by dim, flickering chandeliers that cast long shadows on the walls. At the center of the room stood an enormous table carved from a single slab of black granite. Around it sat tech moguls, scientists, and world leaders, all silent, as if waiting for Musk to speak. When Musk finally entered, the room shifted. Dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit, he carried himself like a monarch addressing his court. His presence was magnetic, but there was something else. A weight to the air, a sense of foreboding that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. He raised his glass for a toast. "To the purity of progress," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. The words hung in the air, and as everyone raised their glasses, I noticed the designs etched into the goblets. Symbols I couldn't quite place but felt I had seen in history books. "Tonight," Musk continued, "we celebrate the dawn of a new era, an era free from the shackles of mediocrity, an era where the best will rise and the weak will fade into obscurity." The applause that followed was polite but strained, as if the guests were unsure whether to cheer or question his words. It wasn't just what he said, but how he said it. A cold certainty that hinted at plans far beyond what anyone in the room could comprehend. As the night wore on, I noticed Musk whispering to a select group of individuals. They disappeared behind a door guarded by 2 men in suits. The hallway beyond was off limits, but curiosity got the better of me. Later that night, I slipped away and found the door ajar. What I saw inside chilled me to my core. The room was dimly lit, its walls covered in intricate carvings that looked like ancient runes. At the center was a small, circular pool filled with a thick crimson liquid. Around it, the group stood silently, their eyes fixed on Musk, who held a chalice in his hand. "This is the sacrifice progress demands," he said, dipping the chalice into the liquid before raising it to his lips. The others followed suit, drinking in silence. I stumbled back, my heart racing, unsure if what I had witnessed was real or some elaborate hallucination. But the smell of iron and the whispers that followed me out confirmed the nightmarish reality. 7. The AI singularity and the final warning. The last story is the most chilling. In 2023, Musk unveiled a new AI project he called Prometheus. Publicly, it was a tool for global problem solving, but privately, he described it as a path to creating the ultimate order. He spoke of how AI could enforce global unity, eradicate dissent, and create a perfect society. His tone was almost messianic, and his words bore an eerie resemblance to the totalitarian visions of the past. When one of his advisors hesitated, Musk's response was cold. History is written by the victors. Don't forget to subscribe our channel for more such stories.